It started with a smell. You'd think after years in the service through monsoons in the Pacific, and a barrack so moldy the walls sweated I'd be immune to rot. But this was different. This one had weight purpose. It clung to my boots when I came up from the basement like it was following me, whispering something was wrong. That was the first warning, the first quiet sign before everything in my peaceful little neighborhood turned into war. Before Karen, the HOA queen herself, decided to turn the rain against me. I remember the morning I found it. Coffee in one hand, slippers on birds louder than the traffic. I stepped downstairs to grab a wrench and felt its soft, wet, spongy carpet near the laundry unit. The air was thick, heavy. A faint trickle ran down the cinder block wall like a bad memory, darkening the gray into something sinister. Instinct kicked in. I checked the pipes, the washing machine. Nothing. No leaks, no broken seals. But the water stayed. When I stepped outside, the grass along the north wall was soaked, even though it hadn't rained in days. My hand sank into the mud like it was breathing. And when I looked up, I saw it. Across the fence stood Karen's pristine, colonial, fresh-paint, picture-perfect hedges and brand-new aluminum gutters, the kind that gleam like polished knives. Only they weren't aimed toward the street like everyone else's. They were aimed at me. The runoff tube's black plastic elbows extended just far enough to dump gallons of rain straight onto the slope that led into my basement wall. It was surgical, deliberate, and knowing Karen, it wasn't an accident. I walked over that afternoon, boots still damp, rehearsing the polite version of my anger. When she opened her door, her smile was sunshine dipped in vinegar. "Karen," I said, "your new gutters are sending water right into my foundation. I'm getting seepage inside already." Her eyes narrowed. "They're within code." I checked. "I'm not talking about code," I said, trying to stay calm. "I'm talking about damage." She smiled again, sharp, perfect, poisonous. "Maybe you should fix your drainage, Jack. The slope's been off since your lawn washed onto my mulch last spring." That was it. She knew exactly what she was doing. 2 days later, instead of help, I got a violation notice from the HOA. My grass apparently was exceeding acceptable height. Right. Because nothing says community pride like bureaucratic revenge. I stood in my basement that night staring at the spreading water line and realized this wasn't about gutters anymore. It was about control. Karen didn't like that I existed outside her little kingdom of clipboards and bylaws. I called the HOA. Tina, the secretary, answered with the enthusiasm of a brick. "Drainage between neighbors is civil," she said. "Not our problem." "She's on the board," I snapped. "That's a conflict of interest." "Then file a complaint in writing," she said, and hung up. That's when I stopped playing by their rules. I started what I called Operation Backflow. Photos, videos, soil readings, every drop documented. I bought a moisture probe, logged rainfall by the hour, and built a folder on my laptop labeled like a classified mission. Because it was one. Still, the basement got worse. The mold came next, small black blooms behind the heater, dark freckles spreading like disease. My insurance adjuster took one look and sighed. "This looks like gradual damage, sir. Probably maintenance-related. Translation not covered." For the first time I felt real doubt crawl in. Maybe I was making a mountain out of mud. Maybe I should just pay for the repairs and move on. That's when I met Mrs. Rayburn. She was 2 houses down, a widow with a smile like she'd seen everything. When I told her about Karen, she didn't look surprised. She just said, "You're not the first." She redirected her gutters toward us last spring. "My husband threatened to call the city." She backed off. Something snapped back into place inside me. Maybe it wasn't paranoia. Maybe this was a pattern. I went digging through the HOA's own documents pages of legal fluff and fine print and found it Article 9, subsection D. No homeowner shall alter drainage in a way that causes damage or undue burden to another's property. Clear as day. I highlighted it, emailed it to the board. Silence. Then another violation notice: trash bins visible from the street. That night I mounted a small weather station behind my shed, complete with rainfall sensors and soil saturation tracking. Then I hid a motion camera aimed right at Karen's downspout. Every drop she dumped, I logged it. Every time she came outside, clipboard in hand, I had it on record. I wasn't paranoid anymore. I was methodical. A week later, I filed a formal complaint. Photos, graphs, timestamps, everything. dropped it in the HOA's mailbox myself, 3 days before the next meeting. At the meeting, Karen sat at the head of the table sipping lemon water like a queen. When my name came up, she read from the agenda without looking at me. "Drainage concerns submitted by Mr. Dalton," she said, voice sugar-coated. "The board has reviewed the documents and determined this issue falls outside HOA jurisdiction." I stood up. "You didn't review anything." She smiled. "Article 5, Section 3. We don't involve ourselves in civil disputes. There's a clause, Article 9, that forbids what you did." "Yes," she said sweetly, "but only if it's intentional. And I didn't intend anything, Mr. Dalton." The laughter in her eyes burned hotter than any insult. I walked out without a word, fists tight, heart hammering. They thought that was the end of it. They had no idea I was just getting started. I contacted the county stormwater office, left 3 messages, finally got a call back from a woman named Aria, an engineer with a tired voice and a conscience. "If you've got proof," she said, "we can open an investigation." Oh, I had proof. Within days, I sent her the full dossier. She emailed back impressed. "You've done more work than most contractors." Then I went further, filed a Freedom of Information Act request for Karen's drainage permits. When they arrived, I almost laughed. Her contractor had submitted a sketch claiming all runoff was directed to her own yard. Nothing about the extensions aimed at mine. That wasn't just a lie, it was falsified documentation. Now I had her. I didn't go loud. Not yet. I waited, gathered more, installed professional-grade sensors disguised as garden stakes, logged data 24/7. And when the next big storm hit, I watched the numbers spike: my foundation near saturation, the slope at 100%, and Karen's runoff line tripled the rainfall volume. Then the backup started. Her lawn flooded, water pooled near her patio. She came out in a robe and slippers trying to rake it away. I watched through the rain as she realized she was standing in her own trap. A week later, no HOA notices, no emails, just silence. Until the envelope arrived. Thick, gold-lettered Kessler and Morrell attorneys at law, a cease and desist order. Accusations of trespassing, surveillance harassment, even malicious redirection of drainage. I didn't panic. I called Mason, my old brother-in-arms turned attorney, told him everything. He listened quiet as always, then asked, "Do you want this to stop, or do you want this to hurt?" I didn't answer. He knew. His reply to her lawyers was brutal poetry. He cited property code violations, state nuisance laws, and the anti-SLAPP statute. "My client," he wrote, "is a decorated veteran. If you wish to pursue discovery, we welcome it." After that, the gutters disappeared overnight. Karen had them removed, pretending it never happened. But the war wasn't over. The city inspector, Frank Mendoza, showed up 2 weeks later after Aria forwarded my report. He didn't knock, just walked the property, measured slope, soil, runoff direction. When he hit Karen's side, he frowned. "Not code compliant," he muttered. Within days, she got her own letter. Notice of municipal violation. And just like that, the Queen lost her crown. Neighbors who used to look away now waved. The HOA went quiet, too quiet. Then came the audit. Turns out Karen had signed off on multiple unapproved projects, funneled HOA funds into aesthetic upgrades, and ignored 6 legitimate complaints. The city ordered a full board restructuring. When the final ruling came down, it was swift. The judge awarded me damages $15,000 plus repair costs and ordered Karen's removal from the board effective immediately. I didn't cheer, I didn't smile, I just exhaled the kind of breath that feels like years leaving your lungs. Weeks later, her yard began to rot. Without the illegal extensions, her perfect lawn became a swamp. The ground, compacted and starved of drainage, drowned itself. The smell returned not from my basement this time, but from hers. Neighbors called it karma. I called it balance. Because you can aim your gutters at someone's house, but you can't escape the flood you build for yourself.